Comprehensible English is classroom language that creates access to all aspects of the curriculum for learners using EAL. When teachers use Comprehensible English to give instructions, present content, set tasks, and deliver feedback, they create the conditions for learning English and learning through English. It does not mean oversimplifying, but teachers need to be aware of how they speak and of the language choices they make so that the learners understand what they need to do and to know. One of the tasks that learners using EAL struggle with the most is following and remembering a list of instructions. To make instructions more comprehensible, teachers can do the following. Make conscious choices about language to eliminate unnecessary language that adds to the linguistic burden. For example, cut out elaborate explanations about what will be happening, such as, in a minute I am going to be telling you when speaking, which can be confusing to learners new to English. Initially, if you have the time, you could prepare yourself a script. With practice, it will become automatic. Present instructions in the correct order so that the sequence of actions is clear. For example, first talk to your body, next choose 3 words, and so on. Notice that each instruction in this example is short and simple. Repeat a language structure to minimize the amount of language a learner needs to access. For example, use an action verb at the start of each instruction like this. Pour the water, switch on the kettle, heat the cup. Scaffold spoken language is with appropriate actions and gestures. You could mime simple actions like cutting out a shape. Use visuals to illustrate key concepts, items, or processes as you talk. You could point to a large map to show places or show a diagram with simple labels to illustrate a process, like the germination and growth of a plant. Ask questions to check understanding. Ask children questions about the topic. If they respond, it's a confirmation that they've comprehended. Were you only to ask them to repeat the instruction and they repeat it, this could mean they can repeat the sounds, but not necessarily with understanding. Research conducted by Beck and colleagues in 2013 categorized classroom language into 3 tiers. Tier 1, vocabulary, are words that appear frequently in everyday use, for example, listen and book. Tier 2 vocabulary are words that are used generally for learning, for example, essay and scribe. Tier 3 words are those that are specific to a subject, for example, impressionism in art or pipette in science. Certain words can appear in more than one tier and need to be taught explicitly. Older learners, who are in the earlier band, will have significant gaps in tiers 1 and 2, and these will need to be explicitly taught. To support vocabulary development, teachers can use a combination of familiar and new vocabulary so that learners can draw on what they already know and use that context to learn new words. For example, when introducing the term alternate, first say, change the numbers around, then say, alternate the numbers. Repeat new vocabulary by using it in multiple ways. For example, when introducing the term evaporation, say, when the water gets hot, it evaporates. Evaporation happens when water turns into steam. Learners need to hear new terms multiple times. When introducing new terms, say them slowly and with emphasis, and sound out each syllable clearly. For example, saf, ra, jet. Outside of speaking of comprehensible English strategies, we can point to certain features of classroom language that can affect how comprehensible classroom English is. Speed of delivery. Speaking quickly and rushing through numerous instructions or a lot of content creates barriers to understanding. Speaking slowly, without being patronizing, will help teachers to pronounce words more clearly and to be more in tune with how learners are following and responding. Emphasizing key words or concepts and using those words more than once will draw learners' attention to the important content they need to focus on. Idiomatic and colloquial language, which can be used without much thinking, can add barriers to accessing meaning. For example, expressions like fingers crossed or put your thinking cap on may be understood literally by learners who use EAL, especially those new to the UK. Expressions like have a go may not be familiar to learners using EAL. Use language that is not metaphorical in nature. So, for example, instead of have a go, simply say, try doing this. Types and complexity of sentences. Complex sentences with several clauses, for instance, is there any shape that you can see that's left that you think, no way, there is not a right angle there, create a barrier to understanding. It is hard for learners to know what to focus on or to separate out the different parts. Break such sentences up into simple one-verb sentences or make them into one sentence where possible. For example, which shape doesn't have a right angle? Multiple meanings. Many words and phrases in English can have multiple meanings. For example, the phrasal verb put up can mean several things, and the word table has an everyday and maths subject meaning. The strategies we spoke about in this video before, including using visuals and actions to illustrate, can help to remove ambiguity and confusion. Nominalization. As texts become more academic, speakers and writers increasingly use nominalization, where they turn a verb or a phrase into a noun. For example, make clear becomes clarification, or evaporated becomes evaporation. Teachers can scaffold how they introduce learners to new vocabulary in the form of nominalization by using the concept in a narrative form first. For example, the water became hotter and turned into steam, followed by the water evaporated and then evaporation occurred. The repetition of instructions or content can reinforce language and give learners multiple opportunities and time to absorb what it is that they must do or know. For example, repeat a set of instructions by saying them first, then asking children to repeat them back to you as you write them on the board. So why should we use comprehensible English in the classroom? First of all, language modified to suit the capability of the learner is an important element in the language acquisition process. When teachers modify and control the language they use, they provide opportunities for learners using EAL to hear and read new vocabulary and new language structures in context. It also means that learners can participate actively in their learning. And finally, strategies such as contextualizing and modeling new vocabulary, speaking slowly and clearly, and using visuals and gestures creates access for them to the world of learning in English. Thank you for watching. Please click subscribe to be notified of future videos.